Hi everyone, it's Trevor the Whinging Plum again. Now today's story is about my father, Albert Williams. He was born on the 15th of November 1915 at Mile End, Old Town. He later moved to Bethnal Green. He had five older brothers and one younger sister was born in 1918 who was Dolly. My grandfather was Thomas Williams, my grandmother was Dorcas Williams. Now for some reason, Thomas disappears in 1918. And my father asked my nan many times what happened to him. She would never tell him. So I say he shot through. Now, Thomas's parents were fishmongers at Billingsgate Fish Market. And then when Thomas decided to marry Dorcas, they disowned him because he actually married below himself. That is possible, I tell you. Fishmongers of all things. Now, my father and his brothers all used to go to school, and they only went to school until, primary school. And as soon as they reached the age of 8, they'd have to go down to Billingsgate Fish Market and work at their grandfather's store as barra boys. And all that money was collected for Nan to put into a tin or whatever to help them feed them for the week. And Nan used to have two jobs as well. I mean, it's unbelievable, isn't it? People today complain about everything, don't get enough welfare, but at least they could have shoes and clothes. Now, my father never had shoes until he was 14. Now, that is really hard to believe. Now, quick story before I go any further about my mother and grandmother on my mum's side. During the war, they used to go down to Petticoat Lane, which is a flea market in London, in a part of London. My dad always told them, whatever you do, don't ever buy nothing there because there's going to be something wrong with it. Anyway, they get there and this bloke goes, psst, psst, come in the back. I've got silk stockings. They couldn't get silk stockings during the war. So mum said, oh yeah. Well, they're pretty expensive though. Oh yeah, we'll buy them. Anyway, they bought 2 packs each. Went home, opened them up, and there was only one stocking in each package. It folded them so you could only see that part and you think you're getting a pair of stockings. But in actual fact, you couldn't. Of course, my dad told me straight. He said, look, my old man used to always say, if you ever go and buy a goldfish at Petticoat Lane, within 2 days, it's probably going to turn brown. That's how bad it is. Now, I don't know if you know this, but London used to be colour-coded from the 1800s right up to the 1900s. So the lighter the colour, the more affluent, and the darker colour keeps going until you get to black. That's where my father grew up, in Bethnal Green. And they said about Bethnal Green and that black area that they were crooks, they were thieves, they were robbers, they were terrible people. Don't go there. And yet my father told me once, he said if a person locally had a market stall anywhere in that area, they could leave it for a week and they wouldn't even get robbed because they all looked after each other. They'd rob anyone else outside of, outside that area, but yeah, not that. Now, unfortunately, my dad died at the age of 67. Now, I'm not sure it was 82 or 83. My brother would probably know better. He was actually visiting my brother in Glencoe. And he had a massive heart attack. My brother, who knew first aid, tried to give him CPR. Now, unfortunately, he didn't bring him back, of course. The paramedics turned up and said, no matter what you'd done, it wouldn't have made a blind bit of difference. So, yeah, poor bugger. I mean, I loved him. As my father got older, he was more loving, a lot easier to talk to, more so than when I was a child, because he actually adored my mother. And he went for the same thing my nan went through. My grandfather, mum's father, worked on the wharves. Now, he was a supervisor, which was a pretty high job in those days. And he thought that mum had actually married below herself. So he didn't treat dad very well at all those years. Just another thing, when I was a kid, this shows what sort of personality he had. When I was about 8 years old, I used to have a friend called Robin Redbreast. His name was Robin, actually, but we used to go to the park. This kid used to keep beating us up. So one day we decided to get him back. So Robin held him Well, I got a branch between him and hit him across the face, the chest, and everything else, and then ran off. And he was crying and, bawling. And I ran home, never fought anymore. We thought, you beauty. He's never going to touch us again. He's too afraid of us now. Anyway, next minute, it's a knock on the door. Their father turns up. Your son whipped my boy with a, branch, him and his friend. What do you plan to do about it? And my father said to him, what I plan to do about it, mate, you get off my doorstep before I throw you off it. So the bloke, a bit worried, scared or whatever, he left. Anyway, Dad came inside and gave me a bloody good hiding. Dad never wanted to show anyone else, family things. But, he was trying to teach me right from wrong then too. So, yeah, it's quite funny, that is. Anyway, another story. When I was in primary school, I was always getting in trouble, just mischievous. I wasn't a bad person. Well, I hope not. I got into a fight. And it was the middle of summer. And the boy ripped my sleeve clean off my shirt. I went home and I put a jumper on so Mum and Dad wouldn't see it. Anyway, I hid it in the drawer. Well, Mum must have gone to the drawer and seen the sleeve missing. So Dad gave me a good hiding, which is normal. And then said, right, you're going to wear that for school tomorrow. It's going to teach you a lesson, how to look after your clothes. So I had to go to school the next day with a sleeve completely missing off my shirt. And I wore a jumper over it. Anyway, I got to class, it was 100 degrees, boiling hot that day. Anyway, the teacher kept me saying, take that jumper off, take that jumper. I said, no, miss, I'm cold, no, miss. Anyway, she finally made me take it off and the whole class laughed at me. Now, that was a valuable lesson I learned because that was the most embarrassing thing I've ever gone through. And I still think about it today. So the lesson was, look after the clothes you've got and look after the things you've got. My father was tight, but we never went without. Mum was the most important person in his life because he was trying to prove himself to my grandfather. I mean, she'd come home with clothes and everything else, and he'd spoil her rotten, and she was always the centre of attention, which she used to love. Quite mean on time. She always say, like most mothers, you wait till your father gets home. The difference was my mother did say it. Albert, sort that boy out. He done this today, so I used to get good on. But it never done me any harm. Anyway, so that's version of the story of my father. And I still miss him. I still love him. And I'll catch you next time. Oh, by the way, sorry, your joke of the day. Now I'm going to tell you a pathetic joke I learned at 8 years old. The first joke I ever remembered. It's pathetic. Typical granddad though. This little boy standing in the road. He's waving his net around. This old bloke comes up and says, hey boy, what are you doing? He said, I'm catching izzy wizzies. He said, what are izzy wizzies? So I don't know yet, I haven't caught one. That's pathetic, isn't it? So to all you cottonies out there, stay cool and we'll catch you all later. Bye for now.